In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole, filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell, nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing in it to sit down on or eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort. The opening line of The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien describes where one might find a hobbit, a short in stature, human-like race living alongside men. Life often imitates art, and this seems to be the case on an island in the eastern half of Indonesia.
Okay, I'm perplexed.
It's a long hook, I know, but I just felt like it was appropriate.
I appreciate. Okay, the only hint that you gave me was a little bit hobbity, and
Okay.
I've been dying to know.
All right. So welcome back, lovely listeners, to Odd Anthropology. I am Tasha here with my favorite anthropology student,
Ivy. Woohoo!
And so you have like a couple of months of classes under your belt. How are things going?
Okay, so let me tell you, I have my first test coming up. It's actually this weekend is when it's due for my anthropology class. I've been stressing. I've been studying up the wazoo. I made flashcards. I'm like, oh, I've got to memorize everything. And then I get a notification that the test is available. We have a few days to do it, 3 tries to complete it. And it's open notes. And I'm just like, oh, okay, well, I mean, like, this is information I want to memorize anyways. But I'm like, okay, well, there's a lot of stress I didn't need, but it's going good and I'm really enjoying it.
Good. That's awesome.
How are you? What have you been up to?
Oh, just living life every day. Go to work, come home, be a family.
I hope you're living every day.
Yeah, no, nothing too exciting's going on right now. Just it's been really rainy here, but it's supposed to get real hot this weekend, so I'm not really excited about that.
Not to brag, but so I'm in Seattle and today the high is 61 degrees and it's gorgeous.
I would take that. I would love that.
Not to brag or anything.
Yeah, and happy, I mean, today we're recording, it's the summer solstice. So happy solstice to everyone and winter solstice to those in the Southern Hemisphere. But I'm not sure that we've had anyone in the Southern Hemisphere listen yet.
Not that I know of yet, but I haven't checked our stats in a while, other than we're still kind of popping off. So.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So I think I've got a fun one today. It's been on my list, and it was also suggested by a listener, Rob, who also has an anthropology degree. We went to college together. But he is also the owner of RF Fitness, and he is a super awesome fitness coach. So in case you're interested, he has a website, rffitness.net, I think. I should have double checked that, but he also has a podcast, RF Fitness Podcast. He's a really cool guy. You should check him out. So thanks, Rob, and let's dig in.
I was just gonna say, I feel like I've noticed comments from his on a lot of our Instagram posts.
Yeah.
So that's cool that he suggested this.
Yes. And like I said, it was on my list, but he suggested it, and I was like, yeah, you know what? That's a fun one. Little different. So we'll try that.
Bumped to the front of the line.
Yeah. Because my list keeps growing, and like last time we recorded, Bigfoot, the picks got added, so it kind of makes it hard to pick each month.
Yep. I've already got like fall on my brain coming up. I'm like, I gotta talk about some witchy archaeology. Like, okay, like let's get in the Halloween spirit. Summerween.
Well, yes, I mean, absolutely.
All right. Anyways, I'm gonna stop interrupting. Tasha, tell us about this like anthropology Hobbit-esque story.
All right, time to get to the end of the mystery. Most anthropologists agree the journey of mankind starts in Africa. Then, our early modern human ancestors made their way all over the world, probably following migratory animals and finding new areas as the climate changed. Our early ancestors were able to make these journeys because of the way their bodies and cultures were becoming more modern. Walking upright with a long stride, they had increased intelligence, and they were creating more advanced tools as well as adding meat to their diet, which provided more energy and a reason to follow the animals as they migrated. Uh, we've mentioned in an earlier episode that you will find variations within a species. You remember the Danny DeVito slash Shaq comparison
Yes.
variation.
Iconic, iconic.
While we find some physical variations between early modern humans, the fossils we find around the world usually share those same aforementioned qualities: the long, lean bodies, larger brain cases. So imagine our surprise when in 2003, in the Liang Bua cave on the island of Flores in Indonesia, a nearly complete 80,000-year-old skeleton was found by an Indonesian and Australian research team. But what's so surprising about that? Anthropologists expect to find hominid remains all over the world, and in the grand scheme of things, the skeleton isn't terribly old at 80,000 years. Well, the research team was surprised when they realized this female skeleton was only 3 feet 6 inches, or just over 1 meter tall. Overall, she was so much like our other hominid ancestors, just shorter. Initially, the archaeologists thought that the skeleton was from that of a child. However, the skull had fully developed wisdom teeth, indicating it had to be an adult.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
also, people going and finding super, super old, like ancient human bones in caves, living my dream. It's not fair.
Wait till you see the pictures of the cave. It's like, I don't know, like I always imagined kind of like cave small, but this cave is huge, like so cavernous, lots of space. It like definitely makes you rethink caves.
So when are we moving in? Like,
Right?
wait, what's the
We
cave
can
called
fit
again?
everybody. Um, Liang Bua, it's Liangbua.
Okay. Let's see if this this looks whoa. See,
Yeah,
I could live in here. I could make this work. I could make this work. It looks beautiful. It looks a little
it does.
tropical outside,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Little jungly.
maybe. Okay.
All right, so this skeleton has wisdom teeth. It is an adult. The brain case on the skull was about a third the size of our own, though. The skeleton had a small body with large teeth, no chin, a receding forehead with defined brow ridges. They had shrugged forward shoulders and relatively large feet. Because of these unique traits, scientists named this a new species, Homo floresiensis, after the island that they were found on. And they also earned the nickname the Hobbit, which seems pretty fitting. And in 2003, the Lord of the Rings movies were coming out, so it was very popular at the
Oh,
time as well. So, you go with what's trendy.
yeah, it's funny you're like describing some of these attributes. You mentioned like the forehead, and I'm sitting here like, oh, my big forehead. Then you mentioned the shoulders, and I'm sitting here with my like nerd neck.
I know.
And like, wait, am I one of these? Wait, this is me.
Many of the foot, hand, and jaw traits found on Homo floresiensis are more primitive than any of the modern hominids found, with characteristics more similar to species of Australopithecines, some of our earliest human ancestors. But Homo floresiensis also shares traits with our more recent relatives, Homo erectus. Traits like a low and thick cranium with low brain volume suggest Homo floresiensis could have evolved from an ancient divergence in the hominin family tree. After this first skeleton, the bone fragments and teeth of at least 12 to 15 other individuals have been found in that cave. And some of those were even as recent, I think it was like 2015, 2016, which,
Ooh.
I mean, again, these aren't super recent, but for me, having graduated high school in 2006, this still feels like
Yeah, like
10 years
yesterday.
ago.
Yeah.
So the remains of Homo floresiensis found date between 100,000 and 60,000 years ago, but skeletal remains were not all that was found in the cave. Stone tools made by Homo floresiensis have been dated between 190,000 and 50,000 years ago. These are pretty rough ideas of tools, stones that have been chipped with another stone to create a sharp edge. This is a process known as flint knapping. These tools are similar to ones found in the lower Paleolithic era, 3.3 million to 300,000 years ago in Asia, and even the Odoan, which is 2.9 million to 1.7 million years ago, tools found in Africa. So the tools that they've found are just a very old style of tool that they've seen around for a really long time, even though these are much more quote unquote modern species. And I definitely really recommend looking at videos of people flint knapping. It's still a technique that's used today. A lot of indigenous cultures use it, and it's just super cool.
I know all about it from watching the UK Time Team, and one of the main archaeologists they have on it, Phil Harding. Flint is like this man's life, and there's he the tiniest little flake of flint, and he starts losing it, and he'll sit there and he's flint napped for the show to like demonstrate it. And so,
Yeah.
shout out to Phil Harding.
Time team, hit us up.
Yeah, time team, please.
Find my place in my notes. All
Yeah.
right. So, what were Homo floresiensis doing with these tools? They were surviving. There has been evidence found on the island of stegodon remains, and that's an extinct type of pygmy elephant. So, they also are small, with butcher marks on them. Homo floresiensis may have been small, but these hominids were possibly hunting.
Wow, small but mighty.
Yeah. And not only were there small elephants, but there were also large rodents and Komodo dragons on the island. So these tools could have also been used to protect themselves. And I'm going to talk later about, I lost my brain. What is it? Island dwarfism and giganticism. I'll talk about that, like how things are small and bigger
Okay.
on islands. So the island of Flores is the only location that Homo floresiensis has been found. So how did they get there, and why are they so small?
I'm looking up like pictures and like recreations of how they might have looked. They're very tiny.
Yeah, I mean, my daughter just had a doctor appointment this morning or earlier today, and she's like just over 3 feet. So I'm like, okay, well, she's like the size of a Homo floresiensis.
Yeah, there we
she's
go.
little.
Well, yeah, new unit of measurement just dropped.
So the nearest island of Flores is 6 miles or 9 kilometers away. And with a bit of island hopping, you could reach mainland Southeast Asia. However, according to the Smithsonian, even during the last glacial maximum, when sea levels were very low, Flores would not have been accessible from the other Indonesian islands. So a boat or a raft would have had to have been needed by the ancestors of Homo floresiensis to get them to the island. But there hasn't been any evidence yet found of boats or rafts created by early Homo erectus or floresiensis. The Smithsonian suggests that it is likely a population of early Homo erectus were stranded on a piece of vegetation or land that breaks off from the mainland and bumped into Flores. And I guess that's pretty common in coastal areas during a typhoon or a tsunami, that pieces of land just break off and drift to other islands.
I hate when that happens. Yeah.
The team who discovered Homo floresiensis initially thought that a population of the species Homo erectus traveled to Flores from Java, possibly by a boat or raft, and after arriving on Flores, began to shrink over hundreds of thousands of years. This is a process known as island dwarfism slash giganticism, where large animals isolated on islands over time evolve smaller bodies, and small animals evolve larger.
That makes
So
so much sense.
yeah, because resources are limited and there are usually no large predators to defend themselves against, so they don't have to be like as big and scary, but then
Yeah.
like things that are small, they they have the opportunity to grow bigger because there aren't as many things killing them.
Okay.
Um, and this has also been noted on other islands, such as the Galapagos Islands and the giant tortoises.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's why they be so giant.
Yes, yes.
It do be like that.
All right. So while Homo floresiensis was thriving on their island, the last known evidence of them on the island dates around 50,000 years ago. Modern humans were starting to flourish all over the world at this time, and coincidentally, we see Homo sapiens starting to show up on the island of Flores about 46,000 years ago. And when I was in school, anthropologists first thought that Homo floresiensis had actually been on the island as recent as 17,000 years ago. So they've changed how long they had been there, but like really in the grand scheme of things, 17,000 years ago, that's pretty recent.
Yeah.
But yes, they have pushed it back since then to about 50,000 years. And but at the time when they thought it was only 17,000, there were some theories that modern humans hunted Homo floresiensis to extinction. Um, but there doesn't seem to be any evidence of this. And since we've learned that they went to extinct way before the modern humans arrived, it's pretty
Uh,
implausible. Um, and there are other suggestions out there suggesting a volcanic eruption may have wiped out the species, but again, there hasn't been any like solid evidence as far as why they went away.
yeah. It's hard to be real certain when you're talking about that many thousands of years ago.
Right, right. Yeah, that's one of the fun things about anthropology, and I think pretty sure we've said it before. That's kind of just an always I don't know, but maybe like we don't know yet. We're still, but that's also the best part is we could still find out.
Yeah.
There are still teams that are digging here, and there's new technologies that come out that help us date things better. And so, I mean, while unfortunately it's a lot of I don't knows, there's still the opportunity to find out in the future.
I'm just also a sucker for a mystery. So I'm like, you know what? I'm cool if we don't know for sure. Like,
Oh, there's also been a lot of debate and controversy with Homo floresiensis. There are a few scientists that question their validity as a new Homo species. They believe it makes more sense that the skeleton remains could actually be an early modern human with Down syndrome. What are your thoughts?
I mean, actually, in my professional opinion, as a first semester anthropology student who has not studied biological anthropology yet, I don't know. I mean, I guess, but didn't you say that they found fragments of like belonging to like quite a few other individuals in that cave? So I
Right, right.
mean,
I was like, okay, well, so the whole 15 or yeah, so that they found of skeletal remains at 12 to 15 individuals, but all of them had Down syndrome is a whole
yeah,
island of
yeah, that
modern
seems a
or
little.
yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, I don't think that there's much evidence on the side of Homo floresiensis being a species with Down syndrome, but I mean, we do still have a lot of questions.
Mhm.
And the article that I found, it was from The Guardian, and it's actually really funny. They had some quotes from Professor Dean Falk, who is from Florida State University, and he was getting a little feisty. So we'll have to make sure that we like that article, but I busted out laughing a couple of times.
Was he getting like mad at these theories? Like,
Yeah, he was just like, these people are ridiculous. What even is their problem? And it was
oh my god,
it's pretty.
that is me every single time I'm scrolling TikTok and I get like Egypt conspiracy theories, the pyramids are actually spaceships and built by aliens, and I'm just like, I have to physically like put my phone down and take a deep breath. So I get it.
Right. It's good to get a little feisty.
Yep.
One of the other things I found while I was researching, I stumbled across a bit of folklore. And if you know me, you know I love folklore, and I know Ivy does too. There are local folk tales in Flores of the Ibu Gogo, a small, hairy cave dweller. They are known as the wild grandmother who eats everything. The Ibu Gogo are said to be about 1 meter tall, hairy, and would murmur to each other in an unknown language. The females have long, pendulous breasts that they would throw over their shoulders while walking or running to keep them out of the way. They would eat crops whole and sometimes even humans. Ethnographers had been documenting stories of the Ibu Gogo for decades in the area before the findings of Homo Floresiensis were revealed. So this caused
Whoa.
many to question if the Ibu Gogo and Homo floresiensis could be one and the same.
Yeah, I mean that's a long time for the like stories of them to be passed down generationally, but I mean,
Hmm.
not impossible.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And there's even a quote found footage mockumentary made that was made in 2015 called "The Cannibal in the Jungle," made by the Animal Planet about the Ibu Gogo. And I found it on YouTube. You can purchase it for like $2.99, or it's also on Apple Plus. So if you have that, you could watch it that way. But I definitely plan on spending the $2.99 to watch it because I've heard really good things about it. Like it's just shot
Good.
very well, and yeah, it just sounds very interesting.
I mean, we people, okay, hot take. Not really a hot take, not a hot take with you. But there seems to be in the field of anthropology, there's a lot of people that are just so quick to sometimes dismiss oral traditions and oral
Hmm.
information passed down.
Hmm.
And that bothers me so much because, okay, a great example, this is not nearly the same time scale as this, but here in the US, we have the tales of the Roanoke colony. Like,
Hmm.
oh my God, they just vanished. And people come up with all these crazy theories. They think that Croatoa, the word carved into the
Yep.
tree, when for anyone that's unfamiliar, was one of the first settlements that they were trying to set up here in the States. They get set up, harsh winters, they're running out of resources. The guy that starts the colony is like, listen, I'm going to skedaddle on a ship back home to Europe, get a bunch of supplies, come back. Weather conditions prevented that. It was years until he came back. He comes back, boom, everyone's gone with nothing but Croatoa. They blended
Carved
in
into
with,
a tree.
yeah, carved into a tree. They blended in with the local indigenous people, and I believe this with my whole heart because the indigenous people of that area have oral traditions and stories that have been passed down until today, being like, yeah, like we've always known that they did.
Hmm.
And archaeologists, anthropologists were like, ooh, we don't see any evidence for it. We don't see any evidence for it. And then they finally find archaeological evidence of European settlers having like blended in with the local indigenous people. And they're like, it was probably the people from this settlement. And I'm
Hmm.
just like, okay, so it takes you finding the evidence to. it bothered, and I get that, like, you want supporting evidence before you're like, yes, this happened. But I'm also like, you can still like kind of believe him a little bit without the evidence. So
Right, right.
that was a whole tangent. I'm
I
so
liked that
sorry.
tangent. It was very relevant.
But yes, so when it comes to like oral sort of like folklore tales of these
Mhm.
creatures, these beings, these humans that are very similar to the ones that we now have like actual
Right.
archaeological evidence of, I think that's really cool,
Mhm.
and I think I'm all for it.
Yeah, I found an article by Paige Madison, who is a science writer, and she has a PhD in the history of science. And she wrote this really great article called Investigating Homo Floresiensis and the Myth of the Ibu Gogo. And she brings up a really interesting question. How far back in time can oral traditions accurately report events? Kind of like what you were saying. She says that some scientists studying indigenous memory have suggested that oral traditions contain extraordinarily reliable records of real events occurring thousands of years ago. So, where then are the boundaries between legend, memory, myth, and science? And her article was really good. She had a lot of other really great points and things. So, we'll make sure to link that as well in the show notes so you can check it out as well.
Lovely. I want to read it.
Yes. Page goes on to point out that over time, scientific evidence has poked large holes in the Ibu Gogo and the Homo floresiensis connection. And as I had mentioned earlier, it appears modern humans did not reach the island of Flores until after Homo floresiensis went extinct. So there was most likely no interactions between the two. But still, it's just really fascinating that this folk legend and real life hold such similarities.
Yeah, that really is.
But
It's
yeah,
kind of
that
like when we talked about Nessie in the previous episode, and we're like, you know what? I believe in Nessie because, like, literally, why not? Like,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, why not?
yeah. And I mean, there's definitely, it could just be that when Homo sapiens did finally reach the island, maybe they found a skeleton of a little short person
Mhm.
and they were like, hey, that's weird. There's this little short thing. And then, they happen to see a rustling in the bush and are like, oh, is that more of those little short things? And then they start
Yeah,
like passing that on.
yeah.
Um,
And when you and I go and live in that cave, and we'll probably get some hair going. We're not going to be shaving
yeah.
out there. We're going to be tossing our boobies over our shoulders, running
Yep, yep.
around, and we'll
We
create.
are going to be the new Ibu Gogo
We
slash Homo
will
Floresiensis.
be free.
Well, that is what I had for Homo Floresiensis. Um, and um, ba, 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 ba. Yeah, it was really fun to get to explore this topic again. Like I said, I learned about this in college, and I always am fascinated how things change over. I mean, like I said, it's been a long time since I graduated college, 15 years. Um, but so, of course, I would hope that we would find a lot of new things and update our
Mhm.
anthropology books in that time. But yeah, I had totally forgotten about that Ibu Gogo connection and the folklore behind that. So that was really fun to kind of stumble upon again. Yeah, what'd you think, Ivy? Did it live up to the hype?
It did. I was so curious when you mentioned, yeah, the only hint that you gave me, you were like, oh, it's a little bit hobbity. I was like, okay, color me intrigued. I was trying to rack my brain around it. I was like, okay, is this like something that lives underground? I did think about big feet. I was like, well, we were just talking about Bigfoot and hobbits have big feet. I was like, what the heck is Station like gonna talk about that has to do with anthropology and hobbits? I never did I think it was gonna be something like this. So I loved it. Snaps for
Yay!
Tasha.
And we will have all of my resources listed in the show notes for you to check out. And next month is Ivy's month. Do you have anything picked out or any hints you want to drop?
I think I do. Um,
Oh,
and I might just give it away so that way I commit to it, because I have a problem of being like, yeah, I'm going to do this, but then I flip flop and then I change my mind again. And then I get it halfway research, but then I come across something cooler. So here's the thing. So I had mentioned, like, very beginning when we were first doing this podcast earlier this year, I mentioned that me and my husband were hoping to go to France this year. And I was like, maybe I'll get to go visit the Toland Man, because that could be a whole day trip. So that's not going to happen anymore. I mean, just life happens.
Right.
In a good way. So my twin sister, who already has 4 children, God bless her, she is pregnant again. Oh, there's yay! So many children I have to buy presents for. The financial burden of being an aunt.
Super auntie mode activated.
There it is. And so anyway, so kind of around that same time that we were kind of tentatively thinking about taking a trip there is when her due date is. So, like, you know what, we'll scrap that, push it off. But I think I'm going to talk about something very much spooky, archaeology related, that is in France. And people might be able to guess. You might be able to guess. Another hint that I'll give is I've been really trying to think, like, okay, as I'm pursuing my degree in anthropology, like, what specific avenue do I want to take? Is it archaeology? Do I also want to explore something else? And I've had forensic anthropology, the study of human bones, on my mind. So that is very much tied into this. And that's what I'm going to leave it with. It's going to be Summerween.
Summerween.
Yeah,
I definitely understand the appeal of forensic anthropology. That's what I was interested in too, and it's just great.
Yeah, bones. I mean,
yeah.
Bones are cool.
Bones are cool.
My only hang up is I'm like, oh, they really do spend like a lot of time in labs. I'm like, do I really want to be in the lab that much? I kind of want to be out in the dirt. So, like, I don't know.
That was kind of my thing as well, is like, there's like, at least when I was in school, there was like a handful of full-time forensic anthropologists. Really what you would do is, like, you were a professor and a forensic anthropologist on the side when the time came for you to be called in. I mean, fortunately, there's not a whole lot of cases where just human bodies are needed to be identified. It's the case a lot of the time in, like, mass, like September 11th, forensic anthropologists were called in the aftermath, trying to help identify remains and bodies and put together what was left so that families had something to deal with their grief and take care of their loved ones.
It's similar. There's a book that I read earlier this year, Still Life with the Bones. And the woman that wrote that book, she's into forensic anthropology, and the book's premises is about how when she was still kind of a student and learning, she would travel abroad to sites of mass graves that resulted from a lot of genocides, and they're always needing forensic anthropologists to go volunteer and help uncover remains, because you know, maybe you'll be able to identify someone and that family who lost this, you know, family member 20-30 years ago to a genocide will finally get that closure. And that's also the kind of stuff that I'm like, that is something that, like, they're always needing help with. Usually it's volunteer work, usually you're making diddly squat, but that's so impactful. And part of me is like, you know, I could see myself doing that at least for a few years while I'm still young enough to be outdoors and crouched over and, you know, put in time to help in some kind of way like that. So I don't know.
Yeah. The Bone Woman is also another really good book that's very similar to that I read when I was in college, that really inspired me as well.
I think I have that book, but I just haven't started reading it yet.
It's a good one.
I do. I have it.
Good.
I got it, and then I started. Well, okay, I think I got like a chapter or two in, and then
Hmm.
I was like, okay, this is like very similar to the one that I just read, so maybe I'll read
Hmm.
something else and come back to it. But
Yeah.
all right. Anyways,
Woohoo.
now
So,
there's a tangent.
hey, so let us know your thoughts on Homo Floresiensis, or anything else with the podcast feedback, things you would like to have us talk about. You can find us on Instagram or on Substack, where you can also subscribe to our posts for $5 a month, and you will get unlimited access to the articles that Ivy writes, covering all sorts of fun anthropology things. She currently has this Magical Monday series, sending fun, folkloric, anthropologically based magical writings to your inbox
Yeah.
every Monday.
Yeah, and those ones they're kind of popping off too. I really need to stop saying popping off because I keep saying that. Yes, every single Monday on our Substack, I write something called Magic Mondays. The one that just came out at the time that we're recording this is about Selkies and this ancient
Yeah.
steel tooth necklace. So it's got some folklore, it's got some archaeology. At the end of the month, our previous posts do get archived, and that's what paid members have access to, that whole entire archive. And so far, we have 2 paid subs. Shout out to you. Thank you, truly, because platforms that we record on, that we host on, this all costs money, comes out of our pockets. We're an independent podcast. It's just me and Tasha, so your support is greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. Um, and I'm hoping that I will contribute to the writings as well. I think I've written one article, and that was just a review of a different article that was anthropology related. But I definitely want to be helping Ivy out as well, so that she's not.
Yes, that was your article that you wrote about like monkeys using tools, like
Yes,
that we're
yes. Oh no,
watching.
it was they were using herbs to like
That's right.
heal.
Yeah, like naughty, like their pasta tools are like monkeys today. Like we're watching them make like a poultice or whatever. Like
Hmm.
craziness. So
Yeah,
I think that might be in the archive now too. So that might be for paid subs only. Sorry, everybody. We have to make money somehow.
You're just gonna have to spend the $5 to be able to read it now. You can also find us on YouTube. Our audio recordings of the podcast are up there, and everywhere that you listen to podcasts. Did I forget anything, Ivy?
Nope. I think that's it.
Okay. Well, please
Yeah.
leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing, share topics you want to hear, or just say hi. We definitely would love to connect with our listeners. And so thank you, and we'll see you next month.
Yep. Goodbye.
Bye.